What's going on, beautiful people? It is finally here. Yes, the MMO podcast, the Mental Max Out podcast is finally here. And it is your boy, Akeem Robinson. And I'm sitting along Amy G. And Amy, what a time. What a time, because it is truly here. Something I've been thinking about for a long time. Not gonna lie, kind of scared. Not gonna lie, thinking I was a little outdated. Didn't think I was gonna be in this crowd. But we're here and we're doing it. How are you feeling out there, Amy?
I feel great. I'm so excited that the time has finally come. I feel like it's finally aligned and, we're just jumping in. We're new to this, but we're so excited. We're happy to be with you all tuning in and listening. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Amy Golzinski. I just want to give you guys a little background. I'm currently a yoga instructor, but prior to that, I'm just going to give you a background on New Mexico State days where I played soccer, got a scholarship. I used to ball back in the day, but then I had a couple ACL injuries, and luckily now looking back at it, it was a blessing in disguise because I met the man, the myth, the legend, Akeem Robinson. And so basically how we met, I tore my ACLs and I was on crutches, and Akeem walked up to me when I was by the elliptical and he was like, "How are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm good," with my little voice, pretending everything was okay. And then he looks at me again and he's like, "No, seriously, how are you?" And I'm like, ooh, it's like I felt I just started crying to him and I was like, "Look, I'm not okay. I'm scared. I'm anxious." I, just broke down on everything. And I'm just so grateful that you were there and receptive. And basically coming in as a athlete, excited, having my identity rooted in my sport, I feel like getting an injury that all kind of came crashing down and I didn't know how to kind of think differently about it. I was just questioning, why is this happening to me? What is going on? I was confused, lost, scared. And luckily, you saw me and you resonated in some sort of way and you saw a connection and you came to me and you genuinely talked to me about how I was doing and helped me look at my situation a little bit differently and basically helped me with the mind gym, the mind aspect of it, because it's not all about physically showing up. It's how I got there mentally. And so Akeem Robinson, if you don't know him, he does awesome talks. He did awesome talks at New Mexico State. He got me to come to one. And so I just kept consistently showing up and asking questions and being intrigued. So Akeem, can you tell the crowd what these talks kind of were about and how you got into them?
Wow. So I got to get in the Wayback Machine, might be dating myself a little bit of Wayne's World action, but no, seriously. So I played my ball at Clemson and I played football out there. They offered me a scholarship. Thank God they offered me a scholarship because I did not want to be in Florida. I did not want to be in Miami, and I wanted to leave as much as I could. And so Clemson came calling. And like many athletes, especially that time, I was like I watched enough Disney channels to know that I was like, I'm the star of this movie. I'm gonna be the guy. That's truly, I was like, I'm gonna be the dude. Like, I'm from Miami. I'm athletic, and they came for me. So I was like, I should be starting. This is gonna be a breeze. None of that happened. None of that worked out like that at all. I didn't see my first action on the field until 3 years in, because I already came to Clemson with a shoulder injury. So that was surgery number one. On the way to practice one day during year 2 of my 5-year stint there at Clemson, I slipped and fell. And because I was athletic, I didn't bust my butt and I caught myself like Spider-Man, but I tore 2 ligaments in my wrist. So take it how it is. That was already 2 surgeries in. Then by the time I played in my first game 3 years later, as a redshirt freshman, actually redshirt sophomore, sorry, I tore my LCL, 3 surgeries in. The next year, as a redshirt junior, tore my other LCL, 4 surgeries in. And then the next year after that, I tore my meniscus. And all I kept thinking in the beginning was, I'm good. I'm supposed to be the star of this thing. I'm supposed to be making a name for myself. I got out of Florida and a roadblock happened. And then something else happened. And then something else happened. And by the time I looked up again, I had 2 degrees, but my depression was at an all-time high. I had no validation of myself. I had no identity in myself. And that's the whole reason why we're so excited you're here, because we want people to understand you are not your job. You are not these things we have to do, we need to do, and then all of a sudden pouring your identity into them. Because when roadblocks, setbacks, and things happen, we then feel like we're nothing. We then feel like we're inadequate. We then feel like we're underperforming, and that's not the case. And that's what I thought. I thought I was so broken because my body was broken. So because my body is broken, that should mean my mind is broken. That should mean I'm not useful. And that's the whole reason why we're so excited about this podcast. After Clemson, I went straight into coaching. And straight into coaching is because I was like, I love playing the sport. I wanted to continue to be around kids, but also not have people experience what I experienced. And so for me, at New Mexico State, being the second school that I was at, I went up to the head coach that day and I said, hey, I do things in mental conditioning. And he said, oh, yeah? Then I was like, yes, yeah, I do some things in mental conditioning. And I sold it real good. I sold it real good. I was a novice in the game. And he said, okay. The very first one you got is at our team dinner. It's at Golden Corral, and it's up to you to make it work. And I was scared. I was terrified. I was like, ain't no way. I was like, all the people I've seen do presentations, I ain't never seen them do it in no buffet, especially Golden Corral.
But you did it. You were the first one.
Yeah. I was the first one. And so for us, it went from unscrewing light bulbs, using my bed sheet as a projector, using the equipment room's projector, to now we have a podcast. Now we have another platform to try to reach more people, to try to impact more people, and to try to continue to help people. Because that's why the original one was created. And that's why now we are continuing to grow, continuing to do stuff.
The main reason we wanted to do this is to be intentional every day. We want you guys to feel validated and heard. We want you guys to feel more loved, and you guys, that you can relate to some of the stuff we talk about, because Akeem and I are in like totally two different seasons of our life, but we come together and we just talk about things that we both feel. They may be different experiences, but our emotions are the same, right? And it's like we just help each other have faithful thinking, to uplift one another, to transform our minds, that we don't have to think a certain way and there's a different way of looking at our situations. So we just want you guys to feel included in that and feel like you're a part of something, because you totally are.
I think it's a cool process, and I think it's a cool way to look at it when you can say, we want you to feel heard. I think in this day and age, and don't get me wrong, I have social media platforms too. I have certain things out there that I'm like, I need to kind of just have an escape in my mind. But I think it's very cool when you can say, I hear you. I hear what you're going through. Because I feel like sometimes in our wanting to escape, we then use so many of these social media platforms as fluff. We use so many of these social media platforms as a way to say, yeah, it was to escape, but now 3 hours later, I'm still scrolling. Yeah, it was an escape, but the plans that I wanted to do this afternoon, I didn't touch a thing because I've just stayed on my couch just scrolling and comparing. Yeah, I wanted to do something different today. And yeah, I wanted to start that plan of mine. But, this person is so far ahead of me that there's no way that I can even do that. So now I'm just going to keep scrolling. And so in creating this, we wanted to hear you. We wanted to hear you because we wanted to show you two real people, two people going through things, and you're going to hear things. You're going to hear things that we did experience, that we are experiencing, and giving you the how to deal with it, giving you the how to overcome it, giving you the how to take that step forward. Because, so I just learned this, Amy G. They said that if you spend over an hour on social media and it kind of didn't really have a point, it's been labeled as doom scrolling. In your wanting to get away for a second, you've now spent over an hour, which is fine, right? But now it's 2 hours, now it's 3 hours, and it's been labeled as doom scrolling, as a sense that like you're creating your own reality of there's no escape. You're creating your own reality of there's this doom that you're not getting things done. And so back to your point, Amy, the reason why we wanted to do this is because we wanted to have people feel heard. We wanted to have people feel validated in the fact that we know it is hard. We know it is challenging. Between the two of us, man, I mean, we have 8 surgeries. And you might be thinking to yourself out there, well, I haven't had surgeries, but you've had struggles. You might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm not an athlete. Yeah, but you have bills to pay and you still got to find a way. Yeah, you might be thinking to yourself, I'm in this relationship. How do I get it done? We wanted to create a platform for people that you can be human on your way to work and hear some things that people are going through, hear some things that people are trying to experience and still trying to figure it out, because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. But we're not trying to waste those minutes. We're not trying to waste those times. And in a sense, give people that perspective that we did not have back then. You know, Amy, you mentioned this. You said, I came up to you and I asked you just one question. And I said, you good? And it's crazy because if I didn't experience my 5 surgeries, I wouldn't even have thought about it. If I didn't experience what I was going through, I wouldn't even have thought about it. And so my perspective when I saw you was, I wonder if anybody's asking her about her. And so go ahead.
I don't want to say it. I'm just so grateful for that because I'm thankful to have had roommates and teammates that were surrounded by me, but everyone's caught up in their own journey. And sometimes, whether you're at work or you don't have people in your life that notice it, because if I'm the one who's giving off a smile all the time and, oh, I'm good, and just how I'm showing up because I don't want people to know I'm struggling, like you saw right through that, but it's only because you had those surgeries that you noticed it. So
yeah, and that's the whole point of this today. This whole entire platform was created to say we have different perspectives because of experiences, but we know you're out there and you feel like you might not have someone to talk to. We know you're out there and you feel like you're in a corner, but you're the only one that has to make it work. We know you're out there and you feel like if you don't get it done, then who else will? And that just creates anxiety and that creates pressure and that creates this continual cycle of what about me? And so we want to create this platform because we wanted to hear that. We wanted to speak into that. We wanted to help breathe some life into that, because that's what God did. That's what God did. And he put that life into it. And we don't want people just going through the motions. And again, we're not saying get rid of your your social media. We're not telling you to get rid of stuff. We're just saying, hey, just for these 25, 30 something minutes, whatever, we're going to give you not fluff. We're going to give you some validation. We're going to give you some real time.
We're going to fill you up with love, light, and truth, and, just looking at life differently.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. That is the entire point of it. Because I tell you, from the very first mental max out talk that I did, I think there was like 7 kids in the room, and I'm like unscrewing these light bulbs, like I said earlier, and I'm trying to figure out how am I going to hang up my bed sheet, and I'm trying to figure out how am I going to get enough of these not curtains, they had like little blinds closed enough just to show these PowerPoint slides, because at the time when I was doing it, I was like, they need something. And as you listen right now, we don't know what you need, but we know you might need something. And we want to always ask you to come back, because we know we might have that one thing that gives you the next day. We know we might have that one thing that encourages you to take the next step. We know we might have that one thing to tell you you're worth it. You're worthy. You are it. You are in the right place. We're telling you, you might have that one thing that even though it is dark, it will not be dark forever. Because at one point in both of our lives, we had nobody telling us that. And for me, I did not tell and I did not share that after those 5 surgeries, I was on suicide watch. That I did not tell that after those 5 surgeries, I held a knife to my wrist. And I said, nobody will miss you if you're gone. Nothing is going to change if you're gone. And when I did not take my own life, I cried myself to sleep and I called myself a coward. That's how crazy your thoughts can get if you feel like you have no escape. That's how crazy your thoughts can get if you feel like you have no place to turn, that you now have become your own enemy. You now have become your own worst nightmare. And so for us, we want to create this platform to tell you it does not have to get to that. It will not get to that, because again, you are in a right place. you are in a right time, and if we are just sharing that one thing to keep coming back.
I was on Instagram, ironically enough, and I saw that there was a cafe that they're making cafes now that promote it's promoting the atmosphere and presence rather than not being on your phones or not being against technology, but basically these cafes are like, hey, put the phone down, put the laptop down, let's be present and have a conversation, or pick up a book and be kind of essentially going back to the moment of where you're at rather than experiencing everything through our little screens. And so I just thought that was really cool and intentional, because at the end of the day, I feel like we're wasting so much time scrolling and, mindlessly going through the day and not being intentional. And so I think that's just going back to why we wanted this podcast to be what it is to be intentional and to think about things and to feel like you're growing and to feel like there's hope and there's faithful thinking, that we walk in faith, not by sight. So the things that we think about in our mind create, a new reality in a new way and new opportunities. So,
even me, when I'm on social media, I've noticed for myself that sometimes something that started off as an escape, something that started off as like, oh yeah, I got 10 minutes, will turn into not 10 minutes, and also will turn into compare, and not even a good compare, right? Like it turns into this, they doing really good. And then you start comparing yourself and you're like, I ain't doing that good. Or man, they look amazing. You're like, I don't look like that. And now it's like something that was meant to escape is now doing even more damage to be bashing me, and then I still don't close it.
You naturally start to compare. It's not something that you're like, your mind will naturally just gravitate like, oh, I don't have that, or oh, I want that, and or I'm not doing enough. But like all of it is just so fake and just a split second of time that doesn't even compare to our reality of our everyday, So you look at a picture for a split second and you're like, oh my gosh, they had the best day ever. And then, zooming out of that and realizing that person probably took that picture 1,000 times to get it just right. And they actually, don't feel that way. And
no, man, and it's true. It's so true. Like, I have to constantly remind myself that social media is its own world. Not only is it its own world, there's this like whole nother language that I'm not even good at. And so I have to remind myself that what I'm seeing is not real. What I'm seeing is not the end all be all. What I'm seeing is not me. And I have to truly be like, you know what? I need to go back to what I was trying to do. You know what? I've seen enough. I'm good. You know what? I'm going too far down this rabbit hole. I need to kind of find something else and pivot, because I've done that too. And we're sitting here trying to be very open with you guys and being very real with you guys of like, again, like that's how life works, right? That's how these things work. But we want to also share that we hear you, we see you. There is a moment where you can be real. Not only can you be real, you can now have actionable steps towards accomplishing something. You can now have actionable steps towards doing something. And I wish that sometimes people understood that. I wish that sometimes people understood with just one thing, like you said earlier, with that one thing, we can now change our whole trajectory, because we're now like saying different things to ourselves. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna just go back to like me as a yoga instructor. I'm coming on here saying, take a moment to deplug, a couple deep breaths, come back to the present moment of the real world, and fill the mind up with things that make you feel good about yourself, that bring you in a positive light, that make you feel fulfilled.
Was it challenge? So like, man, I love the fact that you're a yoga instructor too, because again, right? Think about that. Like you had 3 knee surgeries and you're like, oh yeah, I'm a yoga instructor. I'm going to say that one more time for the people in the back. You had 3 knee surgeries, but now you're a yoga instructor. And so something that was meant to be your downfall, you now are utilizing that, and you're now teaching people to be a better version of themselves. So when you go into your yoga courses, what's one of your primary thoughts and focuses?
So I like to go back to my why, and what, like, because when we look back at pain, sometimes we fear looking back at it because it was so hard. But I'm just grateful because, going back to our talks, like you've helped me transform my thinking. And so that's why we can transform pain into something beautiful. So that's what's gotten me to yoga, to be honest. Like if it wasn't for my ACLs, I don't know if I would be a yoga instructor, So it's like that pain has brought me this far because, going back to my why, it heals my knees. It's a new form of exercise that I feel really good about without putting as much pressure on my knees. And it's also helped me come back to the present moment. And it's helped me inspire people because I know how hard it could be to just take the next breath, And so it's cool because it grounds me and it keeps me accountable that I've come this far, and now it keeps me accountable with myself and what I want to show up as each and every day. But that why is what fuels me because, at one point in time, I was on crutches for 8 weeks at a time, and I had to cultivate gratitude as tiny as, I'm grateful that I'm alive. I'm grateful for my breath. I still can't walk, but I'm grateful, that my arms could work for these crutches. So just, going back to fruitful thinking and the power of gratitude and how it has propelled me to keep going.
Thanks for sharing that. Because again, right, you said it so beautifully. There is beauty in the pain, not maybe while you're going through it, but when you're out of it, when you're now growing, when you've now become a new person, there's a beautiful thing in it. And now you've taken 3 surgeries, and now you're an instructor on helping people breathe, helping people find a new center, helping people become new while still working on yourself.
And I was just going to say, I took that from you because same thing you did, like you changed your 5 surgeries and transformed it into being a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
yes. And same thing, and again, if it wasn't for my surgeries, I wouldn't have been a coach. If it wasn't for my surgeries, I wouldn't have understood the player, the athlete, that I approach them differently of like, I'm going to be more conversational with you. I'm going to talk to you. If it wasn't for those surgeries, I wouldn't have understood what true pain was like, because that actually prepared me for when I was homeless, and I was in my truck. And when I actually did have a house, I was so thankful for a bed. I was so thankful for a front door. That, like, it's something we overlook a lot. And as you're listening out there, we just want you to take that 1 second and just say, hey, are you overlooking something? Are you overlooking your relationship? Are you overlooking your significant other? Are you overlooking this opportunity in your life? Are you overlooking yourself? Because we don't even realize the damage that can do when we're consistent in negative thinking. People say all the time, consistency, consistency, consistency. And I stress to people, consistency is a 2-way street. You can be consistent as something you want and something that you need to do and something you have to do, but you can also be very consistent in the things you should stay away from, consistent in the places you don't need to go. And both will get you results.
So good.
That's the other thing. Both will get you results. And so for us, in you being here today, we're trying to help you form a whole new set of thinking by just stepping 1 step at a time. We're trying to get you to have a whole new perspective by just 1 step at a time. We're trying to give you a whole new outlook with faith-filled thinking behind it and pushing you in a more consistent direction. And I'm telling you, we weren't like that. And so the fact that you're here, we want you to come back. We want you to share it with someone else, because the fact that you're here, it's important.
And going back to what you said about it starts with saying no to more things. Like sometimes we think change is saying, oh yes, and doing all these things. But maybe the first step is just saying no to something that you were consistently saying yes to. And now you're like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to practice no.
Ooh, man, look, I'm telling y'all, we're excited. We're excited because I'm telling you, every time you come on, you're going to be listening and you're going to be like, Every time you come on, you're going to be like, dang, I ain't never think of it like that before. And I'm telling you, it's just one small step to help you get to a place that we know God has placed on your heart. God has placed in you for a very long time, and you've just been knocking at the door and you felt like it's not been opening. You felt like you haven't had the right sign. You felt like you haven't had the right call. And we just want to be a conduit to help that. We don't even know what it's going to be. We don't know when it's going to be, but all we know is if you come back, everyone, including us, are one step closer to helping that. One step. And so we are so excited again because this ain't the first and last. This is the first of many. And I'm telling you, from a mental max out podcast, boy, we have come a long way.
And this is just the beginning. We're only scratching the surface with so many topics, questions, growth throughout this process that we're so excited for.
And, you know, we're going to be on social media. So even in the midst of all that scrolling and you see us, put in them comments what you want to hear about. Put in the comments something that you might be on your heart and your mind, and we could talk about it and we can hear you and validate it. We are so excited once again. This isn't our last one. Don't make it be your last one. And we love you. We appreciate you.
We're all in this together, and we're so grateful.
We're all in this. All right, yeah, I ain't gonna think y'all. All right, y'all. We love you.
At the end of the day, we don't want you to think like us.
We just want you to think differently.